Welcome back to You Can Homeschool. This is our 50th episode.
Woo! Here's my birthday,
Okay, that's Pat with her, whatever that festive thing is. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are so excited to be here. So our topic today is we're going to talk a little bit about how we got started, what we've learned doing this podcast. We're going to share with you over the last 50 episodes what were actually as our listeners' favorite top 5 episodes. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are coming up in the new year on our podcast. So we're just going to get started, and we're going to let Pat start about some of the things she learned over this past year doing this awesome podcast.
Yes, everybody, I'm so excited. We're celebrating a whole year. I saw this saying recently, a podcastversary or something like that. Anyway, our first anniversary. So this is really exciting. Thank you for those of you who have been along for the ride. It has certainly been a ride, and real excited about how we've grown and changed, and the part that our listeners have had in that as well. So as Tracey mentioned, we're going to start with a couple of things that we've learned over our first year of podcasting. Some of these things I think you can apply to your homeschooling journey too. I know that I could have applied them to mine, certainly years ago. First one was the value of perseverance. I have a confession to make here that this is not my first time through the podcasting experience, not my second time, but my third time. Yes, folks, there are 2 other podcasts that I have started that are out languishing out in podcast land. And but I did them alone, solo, and based on books I had written. And having somebody for the journey, partnering with Tracey in this situation, but in a bigger picture lesson, having someone along for the journey makes all the difference. And so I guess that's kind of 2 things I learned, that, it's the value of perseverance, and having someone along with you on the journey really applies to homeschooling as well. But those are 2 biggies to get started.
Well, I'm going to sort of trampoline off your second one about having someone over, doing it sort of together with someone else. And I'm going to relate this to when Pat and I, just give you a little bit of background. Pat and I both are authors, and we met through a school called Self-Publishing School, which we'll refer to in the show notes. But it was a school that we both joined separately to learn how to publish books, because both of us had some ideas of things that we wanted to write about, one of which being homeschooling. And so we kind of met through that group, and I had reached out to Pat because I had realized she was a homeschooler, and I was looking for someone to maybe do a review for my book. Reached out to Pat. She wrote this wonderful review. We ended up conversing, and we thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we just once a week just got in touch with each other, just to keep each other accountable to some of our writing goals and some of our goals that we had on things that we were working with. And after a few sessions, Pat had shared with me that she had done podcasting, and I don't even know exactly how it happened, but we started talking about, wouldn't it be fun if we did something together? And then with Brooks, sorry, that's my daughter's name, which is on my mind today. With Pat's experience in podcasting, we're like, let's just try it. Let's just, we're talking once a week. We're talking about homeschooling. Why don't we just start taping it, and maybe somebody else can benefit from it? So that's basically how we got started. But I have to say, if we hadn't had this accountability, like doing it together, I don't think we would have done it, because, there's certain things that come up every week or that, but it was like, oh, I get to talk to Pat on Wednesday. But I know that if it was just myself, I'd find other things to do. So having this accountability buddy relates so much to homeschooling, because sometimes in homeschooling, you feel kind of alone. You're with your kids and that, but there's so many things going on, so many things as a mom that you're trying to balance. And I know for myself in homeschooling, I always had one night a week that I had coffee with friends who also homeschooled. And that was sort of like a lifeline to me. So with us, looking at where did the year go? We did this podcast for a year. It's been so much fun. We've learned so much. It's the same with homeschooling. If you have even if you have one person that you can touch base with, even if it's 20 minutes over a phone call or a Zoom, to just say, how's it going? How's your week going? What's working? What's not? I'm going to pray for you. And so that accountability with someone else is gold, absolute gold. And that's one of the things that has really, really been highlighted to me this past year, because wow, this has been fun. Didn't feel like work.
No, not at all. And I would just add to Tracey, even though it might feel kind of forced or unnatural at first, I would get it on a calendar, like schedule that time. Because like Tracey mentioned, and I know that happens to me too, you have the best of intentions, and you might even understand how much you benefit from talking to the person or, getting in touch, whatever, but things come up. And how homeschool moms, I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Things come up and you're like, well, I'll do it later, or I'll do it next week, or I'll do it. And then it doesn't happen. So like get it on a calendar, get it on, it pops up every Wednesday morning, for me, because we record these on Wednesdays, and it does make me smile when I see that reminder pop up. So that's a great thing. Yeah, that's terrific, Tracey. The other thing I've learned too is not to necessarily be results oriented. Like it's easy for people, especially when at the time we're recording this, in the environment we're recording, this is like this has been referred to as the golden age of podcasting. This is the same or similar to when blogs first started. And, it was relatively uncharted territory, and people were learning a lot. Some people were definitely taking off and making a lot of money doing it, but it was still all kind of new. And podcasting, I don't remember the numbers, but when I recently saw some statistics, there are, even with the amount of podcasts that you can find, it's relatively a small number compared to how many blogs, for example, are out there. So it's easy to get started and think, yeah, I'm going to make it rich. I'm going to get rich, or I'm going to get, 1 billion listeners and 1 million downloads and all that stuff. But Tracey and I really weren't results oriented. We weren't looking at that, at what kind of numbers we could get. We really were looking to see how we could use the experience that we have. We both have many years of experience combined, and have graduated between the two of us, 7 kids from homeschooling. And so we've learned a lot. We have a lot of experience that could help other people, not necessarily to tell you what to do, but to give you inspiration, to give you ideas, to encourage you, to keep you going when you think like, oh, I just can't do this another day. Those kind of things are really important too. And so we keep going, and we're, at least for myself, I'm not trying to look at numbers or anything like that, but they are growing. So, but that's not the focus, so that's been really encouraging too, for me, and hopefully for those of you who are listening to this as well.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add to that. I had said to Pat, let's just do it for a year and see what happens.
Right.
And that really did take the pressure off of, because, there's your podcast should be doing this or that, but part of me was also, one of the things I strongly believe in is not being afraid to try new things. And as, teaching my kids that, stepping out of their comfort zone, try something new. And it's one of the ways that I continue to want to be an example to my kids of, okay, mom's going to podcast now. And they kind of laugh, mom's got a podcast. And I mean, at first it's like you get on, you're not sure what to say. I've done a lot of public speaking, but in a live audience. So this is so much different when you're speaking to one person, trying to look at a camera, whatever. It's very, very different. So, I can't say that all our podcasts are wonderful or great, but at least they're real. Like what you hear is what you get, or what you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. So it's that thing, like, don't be afraid to try new things. And so we're kind of excited because a lot of I think the majority of podcasts make it to 20 episodes is what the research, I always like research figures,
Yes.
facts. So that's what I had found. So then I was like, wow, we're on our 50th episode and, this is a lot of fun. So um, I just want to say, like, we're kind of excited because we said, okay, like we've done it the year. So now let's evaluate. And based on the audience reaction and the fact that it is growing, we are excited about the next year because there's a few things that we've got in there. So stay tuned. Not going
We'll
to
talk later. Yes.
but just trying new things has been wonderful and fun.
Yep.
Makes me happy, and I'm the happy homeschooler. So,
and again, just that you can apply that to your homeschool as well. Try new things and give them a shot. And if it doesn't work, well, then pivot, move away, try something different or whatever. It's great to keep your own energy up and then to model that for your kids. Absolutely. All right. Well, if I have one more thing that I've learned, the last lesson that I have learned from our year of podcasting is to really take ownership of what God's called you to do. And I have had some people tell me, especially in the beginning, well, what do you keep doing that for? It's a lot of work. You're not making any money, blah, blah, blah. But I really feel called to this, and no matter what the results are, it's kind of is a callback to a throwback to that second thing that I learned, but I really feel called to this. And I know that we have touched people's lives based on some, emails I've gotten and reviews we've read and things like that. And so I'm owning it. So this is what I'm called to do. I don't know how much longer I'll be called to do this. I hope for a long time because like Tracey said, I'm having a blast and I think it's blessing others, but I'm taking ownership of that. And so do that as well in your own life, personally, and certainly in your homeschooling. Just take ownership of what God's called you to do and then run with it and leave the results up to him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And, on that thing, staying with your passion or being called to it, I'm a fiction writer. I did not intend to write a book about homeschooling, but I kept having these ideas. And then I was like, I'm just going to write that book so I can get it out of my head and get back to my fiction stuff. And so it's really funny how this kind of happened. All of a sudden, COVID happened. So all of a sudden, my book started selling like crazy. And then it was like, oh, we'll do this podcast thing. And it seems like it's been a blessing. And it was not planned. It was in God's plan, but it was not something that I, intended to do. It was just a number of things fell in place. So that's pretty interesting. So last thing I'm going to say that I learned about the podcasting had to be with one of the things that has kept it really fun and low stress has been that we schedule our podcasts in advance. So you're hearing this now. We might have taped this, 4 to 8 weeks in advance. And that sounds maybe crazy, but it has allowed us when things do come up in our families, in our lives, that we're okay if, one Wednesday we can't tape our podcast. And to me, that has really taken all the stress out of it. So the same thing in your homeschooling. If some of us are planners, some of us are not, but if you can sort of plan things out with your kids kind of in advance, when things come up, you can be flexible, but it takes away a lot of the stress as you kind of know what's coming up in the next few weeks or the next month. So I think that has really made a difference in how seamlessly this has gone.
Right. Yeah, that's a good word. So before we move on too much, Tracey mentioned earlier about how we met. And I think this is a perfect time to mention that if you are on Instagram, and if you're not, get over to Instagram and get over to my page, Breakthrough Homeschooling. I will have my handle in the show notes. We are today, actually for the next week, I'll leave this up as a post, and of course I'll share my stories too, but we are giving a book away. Well, actually 2 books away, because Tracey's giving a copy of The Happy Homeschooler, And I am giving a copy of my Prayers for a Lifestyle of Learning, because you guys know I always talk about lifestyle of learning. And it's a 30-day devotional for homeschool moms. And we are giving away a copy of each, one copy of each. All you have to do is head over to Instagram, leave a comment. What was a good takeaway that you had from the episode? What was your, what did you learn? Ask a question, whatever, just leave a comment there. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, Tracey and I will randomly choose one for the Happy Homeschooler and one name for Prayers for a Lifestyle of Learning. So you have to be listening to this, but you also have to enter to win. So
and we'll send you a signed paperback copy, and mine will be coming from Canada. So it depends who gets selected. If you're Canadian, great. If you're American, I'll be sending it over that border. It might have to stay at the border for the COVID. I know there's a delay, but anyways, but we will send that out to you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this is only open to Canadian and US residents, though.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
this time.
say that.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk about our top 5 episodes. Do you know what they are, Pat?
I know what the top one is.
Okay. So maybe you can do the drum roll, and I'll go from number 5 all the way up to our number 1 episode. So if you can give me a drum roll for
you have to listen to the podcast for the drum roll. I don't have a drum roll for YouTube. Sorry. Anyway, drum roll.
Okay. So number 5 was actually episode number 35, which had to do with homeschool curriculum that rocks, which surprised me actually, because I know homeschoolers always want to talk about curriculum, and we broke down and talked about some of our absolute favorite curriculum. And so I guess that episode has gotten a lot of views. Mm-hmm. So good to know. We weren't even sure if we were going to do that episode.
And I want to mention in that episode, one of the curriculum that I really love was Visual Latin, who I believe I spoke about there. And I will be, we're talking about this later. This is a little spoiler alert, but I will be interviewing Dwayne Thomas, who is the author and host, or however you want to describe him, of Visual Latin, in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. He is a hoot. You're gonna love him. You're gonna love him.
Okay, so going to number 4, and this episode was only the 4th episode that we actually recorded. Is one of our most popular. It's our 4th from the top most popular one, and it came out in August 2020, and the title was "Am I Covering Everything I Need to Teach?" That's always a hot topic. So if you haven't listened to it yet, you might want to listen to it in the near future, maybe this summer as you're planning out your year.
Yeah, that's a big question, because we're always feeling, the mama guilt is ratcheted up a little bit for homeschool mamas. Homeschool mama guilt is not only am I being a good parent, but am I being a good teacher, to our kids? And we say it, I believe, in that episode, and it warrants repeating. Homeschooling is so much more than just the academics.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly enough, the one in the number 3 spot, which was our 5th episode, which was how to plan out your homeschool year. So isn't that funny?
Yeah. And well, you mentioned one of the good side effects of planning a little bit, and you don't have to get rigid or legalistic about it. But one of the positive benefits of planning is it really does reduce stress. So if it gives you kind of like a framework to work from, and then you're not so stressed out about getting everything in. And yeah. So
awesome.
That's number 3.
Okay. Number two. Okay, this is a hot topic. And this was actually our 9th episode. See, this surprises me, because when we were first starting out, we were kind of like not too sure what we're doing. Well, maybe we're still not sure, but anyways, It was so new to us to do this, but these are actually our most popular episodes. So number 9, which came out in September of 2020, was How Do I Homeschool with Little Ones Around? So homeschooling multiple ages.
Mm-hmm.
Hot topic, always a
Yeah.
hot topic.
Yes. And I have to say, the membership that I have available, the homeschoolers table, which I'll put a link, of course, for that too in the show notes. That's a video and actually the podcast episode I actually put into our vault because so many people have asked about it. How do I do that? So I'm really trying to amass up resources for that to help people because you're right. And that is such a hot topic. Who knew?
All right, we're at number 1. So you've probably noticed that Pat and I have done the majority of the episodes, but we had sprinkled out through the year or through the 50 episodes a few choice guests. So our top episode, which came out March 9th of this year, which is episode number 50. I'm saying 54. Does that even make sense? No, it can't be. I can't read my writing. 34.
Yeah, I think that.
I think I better.
Okay.
Just a sec. I'm going to check this. Yes, I can't read my writing here. Episode 34, we had a fantastic guest. Her name is Kokeb McDonald. And she is a therapist who deals with kids with learning disabilities. And she wrote an awesome book. And her episode is by far the most downloaded and listened to episode. And it's called The Link Between Primitive Reflexes and a Child's Ability to Learn. Mm. This is a powerful episode because sometimes we feel like we're doing all the right things and still our children are struggling in learning. And if you have any evidence of that in your home or with your children, I highly suggest you listen to this episode where Kokeb will go back to some of the things that you may not even ever have thought of or been aware of. That would really help your children if they're having difficulty learning. So this is a fabulous, fabulous episode. And like I said, it just keeps getting downloaded for people to listen to. So that's it. That's our top 5 episodes.
Interestingly enough, too, you met Kokeb through the same course you met me, right?
Yes, through self-publishing school. And actually, Kokeb and I are accountability buddies for our writing project. So we speak sometimes 20 minutes every Friday. Sometimes it's an hour or so, but we've become great friends, even though we haven't actually met in person. And so again, it's funny how you just meet people.
It is. It's crazy. That's terrific. So, okay, great. So Trace, you mentioned you want to give a couple of little peeks. What's going on? What are we looking like?
Okay, so what we noticed, again, looking at some of the data of our podcast, is that 95% of our listeners are female. Big surprise. A lot of moms are homeschooling. And also, we've noticed that our listeners really enjoy our guest speakers that we've had on. So we are going to up that a little bit this coming year. We're going to have more guests, but we're going to mix it up a little bit because we thought it would be really awesome to have some guests that were youth that were homeschooled and are finished homeschooling and are now out there in the world doing their thing. So we're going to have throughout the year, we're going to sprinkle our episodes with some of these youth, and we're going to be interviewing them and find out what was their homeschooling experience like. What are they doing now? What do they think were the benefits of homeschooling? What were some of their challenges? Because we want to keep it really real. And I know when I was first looking into homeschooling, the thing that made me make my final choice was listening to a girl who was about 17 years old speak from a stage about homeschooling and where she was at. And I was just so taken by this girl. It made me decide homeschooling is the way we want to go. She just really inspired me. So we really want to do that. And I'm not sure, listening to other homeschooling podcasts, that there's a lot of that, but there are a lot of homeschoolers now that have been through homeschooling and they're doing amazing things. So we want to share that with you. So we're going to have some of those youth on in the coming year.
Well, and I have to say, some of them that I reached out to some people, and one of the people that I'm going to be interviewing was the son of the woman who really got me into homeschool, who is my homeschool mentor, that I consider my homeschool mentor. So he is a youth only compared to me. But I mean, these are adults who have really, they've graduated, they are living life. Some of them have families. But it's kind of good to see down the road, because even though people get a good start, sometimes things happen or whatever, but these are people who have had enough life experience that they are able to look back on their homeschooling years in context, and say, yeah, this part was really good, this part I was a little challenged, but like Tracey said, we really want to keep it real, so you won't hear it sugar-coated, is basically what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
It won't be sugar-coated.
Now, one of the reasons we were inspired to include more studies, more podcasts with some of the youth that have been through homeschooling or young adults is one of our episodes that's coming up, episode 55, is an interview with a special guest I had who at 8 years old published a book. Again, I met her through the self-publishing school, which was a school that I went to learn how to publish books. And her mom had published a book and was and inspired her two kids to publish. So I interviewed her daughter. And so if you that is actually a fabulous interview. I believe she's 13 years old now, if I have that right. But you've got to listen to this girl who wrote a chapter book to help other kids combat bullying, and she had been bullied herself. And instead of going into a corner, she basically decided, I want to help other people who are also bullied, and decided to write this book. Fabulous book. So that's an interview that's coming up. That's our interview 55, and it's called How to Turn Difficulties into Triumphs. That's not the name of her book, but that is the name of that podcast. So I think you'll really want to listen to that podcast.
And I do want to say that if you're new to homeschooling, or if you've removed your child from traditional school because of bullying, please do not get complacent, because bullying does exist as well in the homeschooling community. Homeschooling is a wonderful lifestyle that Tracey and I both, embrace or have embraced, but we're all human at the end of the day. And there are, positive homeschooling experience, and they're also negative. I mean, we're all people, and bullying does exist. So please, please, please listen to that episode. Help your children to learn how to frame their self-image and how they can handle challenges in their life, so that they don't become, bitter and self-centered, and can help others by overcoming them. But just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. So some of our other exciting episodes that are coming up, episode 51 and 52, we have a guest for one of those, and it's going to, I think that one has to do with, well, maybe Pat, I'll get you to introduce that one.
Yeah, that was, I interviewed Julie Polanco, who is actually julienaturally.com, and she wrote a book about low cost and no cost ways to motivate your kids, and talks about the concept of passion projects. It's a great episode to listen to for the summer. A passion project might be something that you might want to do with your kids, and just keep them occupied, keep their brain working, and help them to grow curiosity and a lifestyle of learning. So that was an excellent episode. I think that was 51.
51, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then episode 52, we're going to be talking about the cost of homeschooling. This is a question that often comes up. People are thinking of homeschooling and say, but what does it actually cost to homeschool? So we're going to try to cover that topic. So that's another great one to listen to. And then after that, episode 53, one of the most common questions people get about homeschooling is, what about socialization? So we were going to talk about that. We were going to put a new spin on that whole concept of what is socialization. But I don't want to say too much about it. But listen to that. It's a whole different way of looking at socialization.
Yeah. That was a good episode.
Yeah. And then episode 54 is, this is one of my favorite episodes, because one of the things I realized after homeschooling is I sometimes would hear moms who've homeschooled like 15 years, 18 years, and they'd say, well, all I've done is homeschool. And I'd go, all you've done is homeschool? Do you realize how many skills you have as a person who homeschooled? So we wanted to devote a full episode to talking about the transferable super skills that moms gain from homeschooling. So if moms who have been homeschooling want to go into the workforce, or maybe they're working part-time, want to go more full-time, or maybe they want to volunteer or help out, we highlight in that episode some of the amazing skills that homeschool moms inadvertently develop because of the nature of what homeschooling entails. So again, another great episode that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So we just wanted to give you a few tidbits about what's coming up.
Right. Now, if you want to get some tidbits on what's coming up on a regular basis, because we don't do this all the time, you can go ahead, head over to Breakthrough Homeschooling, my Instagram page. And the first week of every month, I give an overview of what we'll be talking about that month. We also have in the show notes a link that you can sign up and get an email every week to get reminded of what's coming up. And when it drops, our episodes drop on Tuesdays, but you also get, when you sign up for that, Tracey and I had a blast putting together a 5 short video series about a little bit about us behind the scenes, what it looks like when we record these podcasts and stuff. And so there are 5 short videos that get sent out to you, and we had a blast. You just get to meet us and know us a little better, and it's just fun stuff that only subscribers get. So, so definitely that's the link. That link for that too is in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So subscribe away, and
that's
you will be amazed. Well, I think that's all I have for this celebration of 50 episodes. I still can't believe 50 episodes. Boy, you know what I've learned the most, Pat?
What?
Can we ever talk?
Yeah, y'all, because we talk before and after we record sometimes. So.
But the one thing I want to add is, if there's anything that, you've really been wondering about in homeschooling, or that, definitely ask us. Send us a question on SpeakPipe, or feel free to contact us. Our contact information is in the show notes, because we'd love to answer your questions. I know I had a bazillion questions when I was homeschooling, and not just at the beginning. As my kids went through different stages, I had questions. So if there's something you'd like to see covered in an episode, definitely reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep, absolutely. Amen to that. That's terrific. All right. Well, thank you. I think that about wraps up our celebration. I just wish we could have shared. Well, here's my cup of coffee, but I wish we could have shared a piece of cake or something too with you. So, so we thank you for your time, your attention, your faithfulness. As Tracey mentioned, I'm going to repeat, we love to hear from you. So please keep in touch, get in touch, stay in touch. If you're listening to this on wherever you can rate or review, of course, that's the lifeblood that'll keep us going for hopefully another year. Get the word out about our mission to encourage and empower homeschoolers. And friends, just one final reminder today. Tracey, hit it.
Remember, you can homeschool, and it could be fabulous.
That's right. All right. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great week, and we will see you over the summer.
Sounds great.
Bye-bye.